For this week's Movement Monday, we're talking about rear deltoid flies on the gymnastics rings. This is a unique challenge. Typically, rear flies are done with machines or free weights, which are great, but I've always found that doing them off of some sort of suspension device is easier on the back, the shoulders, and it can be more effective, especially when you consider things like bent over rear flies with dumbbells. Typically doesn't have the smoothest resistance curve where you have less resistance at the bottom, more resistance at the top. Doing them off of a suspension device, like rings, solves all of these problems. Usually the ideal piece of equipment for suspension rear deltoid flies are suspension trainers because one, they have a rotating handle, which allows the handle to rotate in your hand as you pull apart, and two, the anchor points are usually done in either a doorway or something that can lock onto a bar so that the anchor points don't slide along and get wider as you do the exercise. With rings, you don't have these luxuries. The straps can slide apart as you pull your hands further apart, and they don't have a rotating handle. But there's a couple of ways you can get over these simple obstacles. The easiest way to get over the lack of a rotating handle is to place the ring in your finger bellies rather than the palm of your hand. This extends the pivot point of your wrist out a little bit so you can pivot at your wrist as you pull your hands apart, and then extend your wrist back straight as they come closer together. You can also just simply loop a couple of hand towels through the rings and kind of do a side fist style motion, which I think is more effective for hitting your rear deltoids and your traps anyway, and it gives you a little bit more of a grip challenge while taking stress off of your wrist joints. You can prevent straps sliding on the bar one of two ways. One is to simply cross the straps across from each other, so that way they are pulling against each other rather than pulling apart. You can also loop the strap over the bar, so that way it grips and holds tight and it won't slide along. It also gives you the ability to put the buckle at the height that you want and locks it in place, so that way if you have less weight on the ring itself, the buckle doesn't slide down and then it gets in the way of your forearm. And it can also bang against the ring and create a little bit of damage over time. Other key points to make the most out of this exercise is I recommend starting out with your arms wide apart to find the optimal point of resistance, and also slightly extend your entire body rather than keeping it straight. This can help you supply resistance at the very top and bottom of the exercise to make sure that you have resistance against your muscles rather than coming up all the way straight and then the straps go slack and you lose the resistance at the top of the range of motion. Rear deltoid flies on the rings are a great warm-up exercise before your pulling exercises like your pull-ups, muscle-ups, and front levers. They're also a good way to kind of finish off a pulling exercise workout as well with a couple of sets, 8 to 12 repetitions. It's not something that you need to go to extreme levels of fatigue or exhaustion for because you're working relatively small muscles that are not going to need a whole lot of hard work and punishment in order to get bigger and stronger. Let me know if you have any questions down below. Till then, be fit, live free.